So I hope you're listening and listening keenly since we can't see you. We've got quite an interesting panel here today, and I have my questions ready, and I'll dive deep into it straight away. Uh, First up, Lalita ma'am, I have a question for you, and I've been meaning to ask you this question for some time now. We have this statistic which says India just has, I mean, out of all the entrepreneurs, at best, there's the representation of women is 20%. Some reports say 13, some say 18. The best number I could find was a 20 number. Uh, and you've been quite actively involved in making sure that women ventures and women micro ventures thrive in the country. Uh, so, could you shed light on the role that access to seed capital for women could play, in increasing this number for our country and actually make the whole financing function an inclusive one? So, over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, you are on mute.
Lalita ma'am, we can't hear you as yet. You're on mute.
Sorry, I hadn't unmuted. So thank you for offering me this opportunity to Sati, and thank you, Manik, for starting off with this very basic question, because access to seed capital is one of the key issues which helps or hinders growth of micro enterprises. If you look at I'm based in Bangalore, and as you all know, Bangalore is a startup capital. Everybody is running around chasing investment bankers with bright new ideas, and it's all about technology, apps, and services.
Yes.
And of course, if you look at unicorns, there are so many unicorns which started off in Bangalore. And sitting here in this space, to me, it seemed a little odd that there weren't many women in this space. They may be playing a secondary role, but if you looked at the space of startups here, there aren't many women floating around. I guess many of you would have noticed this as well. And this has been commented upon, this has been researched. And globally, India is one of the lowest ranked in terms of women-headed enterprises across the country. And it's said to be 2% or lower. And this 2% is also said to be mostly necessity-driven enterprises, which means, that you do some little trading or some little activity because you need that income to find your next meal. It's not driven by innovation, it's not driven by a vision for change. Whereas if you look at the startups are
I think we lost the voice.
I think we've lost Lalita ma'am's connection for now. What I will do in the meanwhile is till the time ma'am joins in, maybe I'll just switch over to Adil, and Adil, we can pose a question to you. Is ma'am back? No.
No.
Okay. No, ma'am's not back. Okay. So Adil, I have a question for you as well. Being like MSME company ourselves, this is one I've been itching to ask the institutional financial organizations such as yours. So, we often hear and entrepreneurs are frustrated in saying, our business is going well, things are great, we are making money. And with everything in place, whenever we go to like a formal institution, somehow we are deemed to be non-financeable. I don't know, like something happens and there is a gap that the business is doing well, but the institutional banker is still saying, no, I can't loan you money because of XYZ reasons which we don't understand. So could you just shed light as to why does this gap exist? That there are people running businesses, but then again, they're going to their family to access finance, and people are putting their own savings and monies, but on a small scale, we are not able to access finance from agencies such as yours. That said, SIDBI does great work, and I'm putting you on the spot for like the entire industry here, but I just like your two pieces of advice on that. Adil, can we wait? I think
Yeah,
ma'am
yeah,
is back.
we can. Yes, yes, yes. Ma'am is back, so I think we'll first listen to her and then.
Yeah. Ma'am, you're still on mute.
So I was at this point that there are very few women in the startup ecosystem that I noticed sitting in Bangalore. And when I dig deeper, it reminds me of my experiences in the financial sector. I have studied the inclusion of women in banking services. Say I did a major study for the banking system sometime in 2013-14 or maybe 14-15. And uniformly across the scale of banking services, whether it is high net worth individuals, whether it is small farmers, the percentage of women owned accounts hovered around 5%. It seemed to be a natural figure, whether it is high net worth, whether it is savings bank, whether it is fixed deposits, whether it is housing loans, and then the Jandan came, and what happened was, by insisting that accounts are opened in joint names, women ownership seemed to increase. So that was empowering for women who could make it work for them. So it looks as if inclusion has improved, but my suspicion is it's not as making as much headway, because a woman needs both access and control, over an asset to be able to make choices. And when you come to seed capital, if somebody wants to start something in a family, we know how it is in rural and small town India, and how much a woman is allowed to make use of the resources pool in the family over the claims of men, seniors, children, whatever it is. So these truths we all know, whether it is middle class, whether it is the poor, whether it is tribal, whatever it is. Therefore, I believe very strongly that access to seed capital is very important for women. And usually this is achieved by saying, like if you look at financial inclusion for women, the most popular thing that financial services sector has come up with is a 0.5% interest reduction. If everybody gets a loan at 12%, they get it at 11.5%. I think that is neither here nor there. That is, after they have become eligible for the loan, they get a discount. But the real story lies till they reach a point where they can get a loan. So I see it as a funnel, how many people have the aspiration to set up an enterprise, how many of them have a chance to test out their idea, how many of them succeed in that idea, and how many of them are able to make it reach a scale where the bankers can then come in and finance. So the large part of the funnel is before it reaches the banking system. So the banking system rewards such perseverance by giving a 0.5% waiver or whatever. It varies from bank to bank, and different banks have different ways of encouraging. The other thing is, one solution has been to build women's social capital through the group of, SHGs is the major plank where women have been empowered. And I have been very closely involved with the SHG movement, having been based in Hyderabad for a long time. So I see its value. I really respect all the work that has gone in to build that ecosystem. But my contention also is that entrepreneurship is an individual action. I'm yet to see a startup by a group of 10 people. At best, it is a team of 2 or 3 who are constantly fighting with each other, and there is some venture capitalist who's trying to keep peace between them. That's been my observation. I see Manik laughing, but that is the reality. So there's expectation that somehow women will not only work nicely in a group, but that whole group will become entrepreneurial and new things is also, I think, a bit far-fetched. These are my observations about what is being done. What I do now in the organization we set up called Plus Trust is try to work with women on the grassroots, at the grassroots level. What we offer them is a fellowship and mentoring and guidance. Our relationship just begins with a fellowship. In the fellowship, they can think of what they want to do and test out how to do it. They may or may not succeed. We are okay with their not doing what they want to do. The amount is not fixed by us. They tell us how much they need. The amount is for their personal expenditure, not for their business. Because their business is mostly their labor itself. So this is how we have piloted this. And our efforts, we have understood from debriefing and from our experience over the 5-6 years with about 100 women, is that they gain first in self-confidence and in interpersonal skills. That is the major gain. And in conceptualizing a project and implementing it, and in looking at themselves as a professional, on a professional path. They begin to have aspirations. I must become a better teacher, or I must become a better tailor. Whatever it is that motivates her. So we try to walk with these women and help them fulfill their motivations. Manik, I don't know if I'm taking too much time. So just tell me if I can stop whenever.
Sure, ma'am. You can take another minute or so if you want to go on.
So this is our attempt at Plus Trust, and we are trying to say that we are building an ecosystem for women's micro social ventures. Like, all this is jargon if you ask me, but what we're doing is not conventional production where a woman is working on some value addition in an agriculture value chain. Because again, I believe that this whole base of the pyramid stuff that we talk about, the producers at the base of the pyramid are often getting the least margins. If you look at the value chain, they may be doing the basic work. The product may be 80% ready when it leaves their hands, but they will not get 80% of the value add.
True.
So to me, it seems like if they do something that will flow back into the quality of life in their community, that is going to sustain them, make them entrepreneurial. So we started with education. Now we're trying to look at healthcare, maybe waste management, maybe sustainable agriculture, things like that. So we are hoping that that will flourish in that way, and we are hoping to influence the minds of other players, grassroots NGOs, large NGOs, and maybe eventually an RLM. After all, the SIG movement started as an NGO innovation. So we do hope that this will that go. Thank you.
Ma'am, just a short follow-up question. I know you're doing great work, and very many times young people are looking to do something meaningful but are out of ideas. So, is it a possibility that people meaning to work in this space can access a playbook of sorts? A playbook basis your practice through Plus Trust, so that this could be scaled in different places. I think that would be of a lot of interest to this community at large.
We'd love to encourage such options because we sincerely believe in partnerships, and we look forward to work with others rather than try to do even imagine that we can do much ourselves. Asking 100 women in a country like India is laughable, is it? Though we feel proud that we work with 100 women, it seemed like at another point of time I say, oh my God, 100 women really in a country of 1 billion can only be done by partnerships, and I'm very, very happy to explore possibilities. I saw Ruchika's hand raised.
Yes, I did too, and I think I also, she's joined back. I think she left the meeting.
I can
she's
see
joined
her.
back. Yeah. Ma'am, should we do the questions at the end so that we've gone through
Okay.
as well? Yeah. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your response. Moving on to Adilji. Adilji, back to the original question. Why can't we get money easily from institutional finance? Why do we have to go through all of that tedious paperwork to access finance? We already have 20 things to do. We have to take care of ops. We have to recruit people. We have to do the infighting. There is so much complexity. How can you make life easier for people like us and for micro ventures? So that's my question to you.
Thank you, Manik. I think I'm audible now, clear.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I will start with what Lalita Madam was saying, that a banker is one of the player in the entire ecosystem. And if the entire ecosystem works well, then of course this player will also have to perform as per the expectations. And the question which you have raised, I think it's a very pertinent question. And I think many of the entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, whenever we go to the branches or interact with other stakeholders, this question comes very frequently. So if I mean, take this question and go in a further detail. So I would say, I mean, if you have to lend anybody, there are basically two things which you assess. One is that the intent of the person and ability of the person. So whether they have an intent to repay and they have ability to repay. And if you try to see the entire informal structure, I mean, even if you see a money lender or anybody who rely on you, or even your family, friends, anybody who knows you, and in the one shot he says, okay, I will lend you. So he understands both the things very well, because he know you to the depth, and he knows your ability. And being a person from knowing you from uh, I mean, being your close friend or somebody who knows you very well, he also knows your ability and intent, both the things very well. Now once we move to this formal structure, when we go to the formal institution, so this question will always come, how will you assess? And most of the places where we see that people who are able to access the formal financial system, they are at least able to show their ability to pay. Intent, of course, I mean, will always be questionable, and people will judge. So, I mean, I was reading a book, it was called A Good Money Lender. So, a good money lender, he says that, I mean, that good money lender knows from your grandparents, your parents, they know you how much land you own, they know what was your next coming expenditure, they understand each and everything about you. And then they take that risk, okay, yes, I can give you. So probably that kind of, and I call it a information asymmetry. So when a person who says that I'm a good entrepreneur, that good needs to be defined, and how to define that good, probably make that challenge. So I mean, many of the data I think you also quoted in some of the I mean other presentation. I've also seen that we have more than 6 crore MSMEs. But if you go into the formal structure, how many of them are registered MSMEs? How many of them pays their ITR? Even though they may not be into the tax bracket, but do they file their ITRs, so that when they approach to the bank gives a confidence, yes, you are a prudent in your practice. So I think all those challenges makes banker also a bit on the other side of the table, that it's not easy to assess them. And the more we are able to remove this asymmetry, the more we are able to remove this information gap, the more confidence a banker gets. And if you see the numbers, I mean, of course, what Leta Madam also say, that whatever we do country like India, it will be always a small. And because whatever big we do, it will be always a very, very minuscule with a country of 1.3 billion people. So, like there is a initiative which SIDBI launched. We call it a CGTMSC, Central Guarantee Trust, where we say that anybody who has good idea, anybody who want to start a business, but they may not have ability to offer collateral. So there is a mechanism which government and SIDBI introduced, that you can take a guarantee on behalf of you. So that collateral, and if you see the numbers, I mean, more than 2.5 lakh crore kind of guarantees, worth loan guarantees have been given. So it means system is working. It means there is something which is happening. The only thing is that how we are able to remove that asymmetry of information, how we are able to access right kind of information, and how when I approach a bank, I can say, though I may not be in a tax bracket, but see my last 3 years ITR, see the kind of business I am doing, see my cash flows. So all those things makes a lot of difference when you approach a bank, and then probably bank take a good call. So I hope I'm able to answer your question.
Yeah, no, thank you, Adilji. I have a lot of follow-up questions, but I will just ask you one for now. That being, like, there's a lot of technical detail when you go to a bank. So one might be very good at the operations of his or her business, but maybe we do not understand what a cash flow statement is. Maybe
Yeah.
we do not know each, things which seem very trivial to a banker are complex terms and jargons for maybe an average Indian citizen who might be a good entrepreneur. Uh, and there's obviously an education gap as well. So do you think you have ideas through which we could request an organization like SIDBI to kind of dispel these myths? I mean, I'd like you to put you on the spot and ask you for a favor. Do you think a hotline is possible? Like, if somebody calls you from rural Bundelkhand asking you, sir, कि Section 8 company क्या होता है? क्या Section 8 company को loan मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा? This might feel like a trivial question. क्योंकि हर आदमी आपके ब्रांच पे हमेशा आ नहीं पाता है, उसका वो आना जाना टाइम बहुत सारी चीजें रहती हैं. तो you think something like this is possible at like maybe SIDBI's end to kind of empower entrepreneurs at large? क्योंकि मेरे को याद है कैसे किसानों के लिए भी एक हॉटलाइन होती थी हमारे देश में. तो क्या ये हम आपसे एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं और एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं कि आप भी टेकअप करें हमारे बिहाफ पे, साथी कम्युनिटी के बिहाफ पे?
So I think इस area में a lot of things have been already done. I mean, if you see last 3-4 years, this information asymmetry को कम करने के लिए काफी कोशिशें की जा रही हैं, and we are trying to reach district level, state level, that how to cater. I mean, because you rightly put it that people who are into urban area or those who can access information probably they have, but somebody from Bundelkhand may not have these kind of information. तो हम इस information को जो दिल्ली में अवेलेबल है वही झांसी में भी अवेलेबल हो और वही टीकमगढ़ में भी अवेलेबल हो, उस लेवल पे कैसे लेके जाएंगे, that is always a challenge. और इसीलिए हमारा एक पोर्टल हमने बनाया था, विच पोर्टल ऑल्सो, सो हाउ इट वाज इन्विसाइज्ड कि जैसे चार्टेड अकाउंटेंट्स होते हैं, फॉर देम somebody who wants to avail a loan of 1 crore or 50 lakhs, it's a good business client for them. So they put all those efforts कि हम उसको कैश फ्लो समझा पाएं, उसकी बैलेंस शीट बना पाएं, उसको बैंक तक लेके जा पाएं, and then in between they will earn a margin or either from the bank or from the making the project proposal or not. So probably that kind of system we envisage that should be required at every district level. So we call it a certified credit counselor.
Okay.
So these certified credit counselors are basically a mechanism at district level where you can approach them and you can tell कि अभी तो हमको business के लिए बैंक के पास जाना है, and it is a kind of a mini CA. So that mini CA helps you to get a loan of 2 lakh, 5 lakh, 10 lakhs. And if he is able to cater these kind client segment at a scale, तो उसके लिए अपने revenue models भी build किए जा सकते हैं. So some kind of pilot we have been done in the past, and in fact if you see Udyami Mitra portal which I am talking, so that Udyami Mitra website has created these kind of agencies across all districts in India. So they have mapped at what kind of different organizations available who can avail these services, so we provide some handhold services. And for this toll free also, we are running a very interesting program. We call it a Swavalamban Connect Kendra. One of our partner, Let's Endorse, who are working with us. So in 5 states, we launched a toll-free number. So anybody who wants to become an entrepreneur and avail services, they can call on this toll-free number and they will get a call back from them. So the moment they put a PIN number, that 201307, so the hotline will say, okay, this call came from Noida, so we need to call back, and then call will come back. You called up this number, what is the interest you have? So these kind of things we are trying, but again, I would say, I mean, whatever we are doing, it's very, very small at the kind of country we have. So we need a lot more effort, a lot more partners to come on platform. We need all more partners to work at this scale.
So thank you for this response. I think you're already doing a lot, even though if you feel it's minuscule, it's good. So you keep scaling up. One very small yes and no follow-up question. You mentioned certified credit counselors. So these are people we can completely trust, and these are people even SIDBI trusts. So we can share information and
So we
confidential information regarding business.
So we follow a kind of due diligence mechanism where we try to identify people who have some kind of background, or some retired ex-bankers, or somebody who is worked with some kind of chartered accountants. But obviously, I mean, like we know that in the society, all possibilities are there. So we try to filter the best way we can. And if we found that somebody is not doing the things properly, somebody is not proper in his or her work, then we deboard them. So it's kind of onboarding and deboarding. If you find that somebody is not doing proper work, then we deboard that person from the list. And in fact, future we're also going some kind of blacklisting for those, and then putting their names that these are the people who blacklisted. So people will become cautious. But I mean, it's like the market mechanism which has to work. I mean, if you see the chartered accountant, it's only the chartered accountant body which find them. And if some CA is not working properly, they say this CA is blacklisted.
Fair enough.
But ultimately, the market has to evolve in a way that somebody should be there to help these aspiring entrepreneurs.
Got it. Thank you, Adilji, for your answer. Moving on, मनोहर जी, आप अपना कैमरा ऑन कर सकते हैं क्या प्लीज? अगर मैं आपसे सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ, मनोहर जी, Ishwarya, if you could just check if Manoj ji is still on. Hi, Manoj ji है.
Yeah, he's there.
हाँ, मनोहर जी, आपके लिए भी कुछ सवाल हैं. अभी तक हमने सिडबी से सुना, ललिता मैम से सुना, जो इतने सारे एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के साथ काम करते हैं. आप खुद एक एंटरप्रेन्योर हैं, और आपसे तो ऐसा लग रहा है कि हम अपने दुख दर्द बांट लें. क्योंकि जब इंस्टीट्यूशनल फाइनेंसिंग आएगी आएगी, लेकिन जब जैसे आदिल जी ने भी कहा कि 3-1 साल की क्रेडिट स्टेटमेंट तो मांग ही लेते हैं, 3 साल के तो फाइनेंशियल्स मांगते ही हैं, पर अपने जिस दिन पहले दिन बिजनेस शुरू करते हैं तो उस दिन भी तो कोई भी बैंक देने के लिए नहीं होता है। तो मैंने अक्सर ऐसा सुना है कि कभी कभी आपके जो सप्लायर होते हैं वो फाइनेंसिंग फंक्शन प्ले कर देते हैं, वो कुछ क्रेडिट सपोर्ट कर देते हैं। मैं जानना चाहूंगा आपके बिजनेस में भी ऐसा कुछ एक्सपीरियंस हुआ है कि सप्लायर्स को आपने एक बैंकिंग सर्विस की तरह कभी यूज करा हो या उनकी सपोर्ट ली हो, ऐसा कुछ आपके
जी, मैं
एक्सपीरियंस में है?
बताना चाहूँगा, जैसे मेरा नाम मनोहर हेमनानी है, तो मैं सिंधी फैमिली से बिलोंग करता हूँ। और जब भी ये हिंदुस्तान पाकिस्तान हुआ था तो मेरे फादर समझो पाकिस्तान से इधर आए हुए थे, तो नेचुरली उनके हाथ में कुछ भी नहीं था। और फिर यहाँ पर उन्होंने एक कपड़े के शॉप में मतलब जॉब किया, तो 5-6 साल उन्होंने जॉब किया। तो जैसे कोई भी व्यापारी आता था माल देने वाला लेने वाला, तो उनसे यही डायरेक्ट बात करते थे। सेठ तो कोने में बैठा रहता था और ये सेल्समैन हमारे पिताजी वो सब हैंडलिंग करते थे। तो जो सेलर्स बाहर आते थे वो इनके डायरेक्ट टच में थे। 5-6 साल हुए तो उन्होंने ही मेरे फादर को बोला कि आप अपना बिजनेस चालू कीजिए, हम आपको हेल्प करेंगे।
अच्छा।
तो जैसे सेलर्स थे तो उन्होंने बोला हम आपको क्रेडिट पे माल देंगे, और ऐसे उनको मतलब हिम्मत बढ़ाई। तो हमारे फादर ने छोटा सा एक बिजनेस चालू किया।
हाँ जी।
तो जैसे सपोज क्रेडिट हमको मिलता था 45 डेज का।
हाँ जी।
भी हम माल बाय करते थे तो क्रेडिट 45 डेज का मिलता था। तो उन्होंने बोला कि आप चिंता मत करो, आपका हमको नेचर मालूम है, क्रेडिबिलिटी आपकी अच्छी है और आपका इंटेंशन और एटीट्यूड अच्छा है और आप पॉजिटिव है, हेल्पफुल है सबको, तो आपका नेचर हमको मालूम है। तो उन्होंने जैसे हेल्प किया हमको, तो समझो हमने धंधा चालू किया मेरे फादर ने। जहाँ हम माल बेचते थे तो वहाँ भी समझो हमको, जहाँ कोई नहीं पहुँचता था, बैग लेके हमारे अंकल बाहर जाते थे बिजनेस करने के लिए। तो जनरली लोग क्या है वहीं पर बैठ के बिजनेस करते थे। तो हमारे अंकल जैसे सैंपल लेके छोटे छोटे गांव में जाते थे तो उनको अच्छा रिस्पांस मिलता था। तो उनको हम बोलते थे कि भाई हम मिडिल क्लास के आदमी, आप हमको पैसा जल्दी देना। तो फिर क्या है, जैसे मतलब दोनों तरफ से हमको रिस्पांस अच्छा मिलने लगा, तो दोनों बाजू से बैलेंस होने लगा कि भाई हम टाइम से देते भी थे उनको और वहां से भी थोड़ा जल्दी आ जाता था पैसा। और फिर क्या है, धीरे धीरे जैसे हमारे फादर ने उसको 10 साल चलाया, 20 साल चलाया बिजनेस। फिर मैंने जैसे बीकॉम करके मैं बिजनेस में आया, तो मैंने सोचा कि ये मैं भी फिर 20-20 दिन बाहर घूमता था बैग लेके, छोटे छोटे गांव में जाके और सेल करते थे। तो फिर मैंने देखा कि अभी तो हम यंग है, ये सब हम कर सकते हैं, लेकिन जब भी हमारी एज बढ़ जाएगी तो हम फिर बैग लेके बाहर घूम नहीं सकेंगे 15-15, 20-20 दिन। तो फिर जैसे समझो ये रिलायंस और बिग बाजार उसी टाइम ये इंट्रोड्यूस हुए थे। तो हमने उनसे कांटेक्ट किया और उनसे हमारा बिजनेस अच्छा चालू हो गया। तो पूरा ऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर में हम आ गए मतलब। तो उनका भी मतलब ऑर्डर्स बहुत बड़ा बड़ा रहता था, हमारी कैपेसिटी के बहुत बाहर रहता था यानी। तो फिर जहाँ से हम माल लेते थे उनको हमने बात की कि हमने बिग बाजार का हमको अभी 20 लाख का ऑर्डर मिला है, 25 लाख का ऑर्डर मिला है। तो वो लोग हमको, हमारी क्रेडिबिलिटी तब तक अच्छी हो गई थी मतलब। और उन्होंने हमारा 10 साल से व्यवहार भी देखा था, तो हमने कहीं गड़बड़ नहीं की थी। तो उनको हमारे ऊपर ट्रस्ट बहुत था यानी। तो उन्होंने भी हमको अच्छा हेल्प किया, बोले आपको जितना माल चाहिए हम देंगे, कोई फिक्र मत करो आप। तो फिर हमने मशीन्स वगैरह लगाई, 60 मशीन्स लगाई, यूनिट लगाया, और रेगुलरली बिग बाजार, रिलायंस ट्रेंड्स, इसमें हमारा माल जाने लगा। फिर हमने रिलायंस और बिग बाजार वालों को बोला कि हमको आपका बिल बहुत बड़े बड़े होते हैं, हमको इधर पेमेंट में बहुत तकलीफ होता है। तो उन्होंने बोला आप एक रिक्वेस्ट डाल दोगे, हमको 15 डेज में पेमेंट चाहिए। तो उनके भी क्या है, फिर दूसरे मतलब ये रहते हैं फाइनेंसर। जैसे बिग बाजार है वो अपने फाइनेंसर से पैसे लेगा और हमको 4.25% डिस्काउंट हमारा काट के और पूरा समझो 20-25 लाख जो भी है वो वन शॉट में हमको भेज देगा।
ओके।
तो हम भी सामने मतलब अच्छी तरह से पेमेंट करते थे, तो ऐसे करके हमारा बिजनेस अच्छा बढ़ने लगा बहुत।
अच्छा।
हाँ, और जैसे शुरू में समझो तकलीफ थी तो हम क्रेडिटर को बोलते थे कि अभी हमारे पास पेमेंट देने के लिए मतलब पैसा इतना जल्दी नहीं घूमता है, तो उन्होंने बोला
हाँ जी।
कि आप आराम से दीजिए, 45 डेज के बदले 90 डेज दीजिए, 100 डेज दीजिए। फिर हम उनको 45 डेज के ऊपर जो भी है इंटरेस्ट जोड़ के दे देते थे। सपोज हमने बैंक में से कहीं से लोन लिया हो तो इंटरेस्ट तो हमको देना ही पड़ता है, तो हम सामने से उनको इंटरेस्ट 5 दिन का हो या 10 दिन का हो वो जोड़ के दे देते थे। तो उनको लगा कि भाई इनका काम सीधा है और इंटेंशन अच्छा है, एटीट्यूड अच्छा है, मतलब ईमानदारी से काम करते हैं, तो बहुत हेल्पफुल रहते थे, हमेशा हेल्प करने के लिए रेडी रहते थे।
ओके।
और प्लस क्या है, जैसे हमारे वर्कर्स थे तो उनको भी हम एकदम घर जैसा रखते थे और हम उनसे ज्यादा काम करते थे, फील्ड में उनके साथ बैठ के हम उनसे ज्यादा काम करते थे। तो उनको लगता था कि सेठ इतना अच्छा काम कर रहा है तो हम क्यों मतलब थोड़ा भी मतलब कम काम करें, तो वो भी फिर अच्छा काम करते थे। और कभी कभी तो जैसे बिग बाजार वगैरह का क्या है, पीओ आ जाता है, परचेस ऑर्डर आता है,
हाँ जी।
उसका टाइम लिमिट होता है कि भाई ये डेट के अंदर आपको माल भेजना ही पड़ेगा।
हाँ जी।
तो उस टाइम में क्या है, रात को 2-2 बजे तक हमारे सब वर्कर्स हमारे साथ बैठ के काम करते थे।
हाँ जी।
तो उनको फिर क्या है, टाइम से नाश्ता चाय पानी ये सब ख्याल रखते थे कि भाई उनको फिर और कोई तकलीफ नहीं हो, जैसे
हाँ जी।
कंटिन्यू करने में कोई तकलीफ नहीं हो, और पूरा मतलब ब्रदरहुड जैसा स्टाफ रहता था। कोई भी मतलब ऐसा फील नहीं करता था कि मैं ज्यादा काम कर रहा हूँ या कम कर रहा हूँ।
ओके।
फिर
ओके।
जैसे दिवाली आती थी तो उनको अच्छा बोनस दे के हम खुश कर देते थे।
हाँ जी।
हाँ, और ऐसे मतलब सब
आपने काफी 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 आपने पसीना बहा के एकदम ग्राउंड पे काम किया, ऐसे कि सबको साथ लेकर के। आप कुछ चीजें बहुत ही ऐसे लग रहा है सरल तरीके से कह दे रहे हैं कि हाँ हमारा ट्रस्ट था, लोग हमें भरोसा करते थे, हमारा व्यवहार अच्छा था, तो क्रेडिट यहाँ से भी मिल जाता था और पेमेंट जल्दी मिल जाती थी।
जी जी।
पर कहीं ना कहीं मुझे ये दिख रहा है कि शायद आपके पिताजी की कंट्रीब्यूशन थी कि जब वो दुकान में काम कर रहे थे तो वो 5-6 साल जितना भी उन्होंने काम किया, वो रिश्ता बनाने में भी उतना समय लग जाता है।
नहीं, उन्होंने ही मतलब हमारा क्रेडिट उन्होंने ही बनाया, मार्केट
हाँ
में
हाँ
हमारा स्टैंडिंग उन्होंने ही बनाया।
हाँ। तो
मार्केट में हमारा जो स्टैंडिंग था वो उन्होंने ही, बेस वो ही थे मतलब।
हाँ जी। हाँ जी।
और
नहीं
दूसरे
समझ
मेरे 4 अंकल्स थे, वो मेरे फादर को ही यस बॉस ही कहते थे, जो भी बात हो तो कहीं भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट नहीं
हाँ।
करते थे वो लोग।
अच्छा।
भाई जैसे पापा ने बोला तो सब बोलेंगे
हाँ
यस बॉस।
हाँ। तो ललिता मैम जैसे कह रहे थे 3-4 फाउंडर होते हैं तो लड़ाइयाँ होती हैं,
हाँ
यहाँ पे एक लीडर था तो चीजें चल गई
हाँ,
जल्दी
नहीं
जल्दी।
मेरे फादर थे तो उनको कोई आर्ग्यूमेंट नहीं करता था, मतलब सब
अच्छा।
जैसा मतलब पापा बोले, सब भाई 4 भाई थे, वो उनको उनको ही पूरा फॉलो करके चल पड़ते थे उनकी राह पे।
आप मनोज जी, आपको सुन के एक चीज अच्छी ये लगी कि आजकल जब हम बिजनेस के बारे में सोचते हैं तो ज्यादातर पहले दिमाग में आता है कि बैंक के पास जाएं या फंडिंग ले लें, हम ज्यादा मानसिकता ये हो गई है। पर आपको सुन के ये भी लग रहा है कि अपने सप्लायर्स और अपने क्लाइंट्स भी कैसे, जब तक हम फॉर्मल फाइनेंस के लिए योग्य बन जाएं तब तक वो भी कैसे हमारे लिए एक बैंकिंग फंक्शन प्ले कर सकते हैं और
हाँ,
फाइनेंस प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं। तो ये
वो बहुत हेल्प होता है।
बहुत ही अच्छा लगा जान करके, है ना।
हाँ।
ठीक है,
और
थैंक
जैसे
यू सर। हाँ
जैसे
हाँ जी
हमारा
प्लीज।
बिजनेस बढ़ रहा था ना,
हाँ जी।
तो जैसे सप्लायर्स थे वो हमारे दुकान पे आके देख रहे थे ये इतना माल कहाँ बेच रहे हैं, कैसे बिक रहा है, दूसरा कोई इनके
हाँ
आजू बाजू वाले का बिजनेस नहीं हो रहा है और आपका इतना बिजनेस। तो एक
हाँ।
एक 2-2 घंटा हमारे फादर के साथ बैठ के डिस्कस करते थे।
ओके ओके।
फिर उन्होंने ही हमको आइडिया दिया कि भाई आप जैसे भी परचेस करो ना, उसको बोलो भाई शाम, आज तुम्हारा माल उतरा है, तुम शाम को ही पेमेंट लेके जाओ, खाली
हाँ।
2% प्रॉफिट लगाओ आप।
हम्म
तो पहले ये सब आइडियाज नहीं थे हमको, फिर
हम्म।
वही लोग सिखा के जाते कि 2% प्रॉफिट लगा के, और देने वाले को भी अच्छा था, एक दिन में वो 2% प्रॉफिट कमाता है,
हाँ जी।
तो उनको भी बहुत अच्छा लगता था।
ओके।
तो जैसे ही समझो सवेरे माल आता था, शाम को उसका
हाँ
चेक रेडी होता था कि भाई
मनोज
आप।
जी, बस आप, मैं ना आपके लिए बस 1 मिनट और होगा क्योंकि मुझे और भी सवाल करने हैं, तो 1 मिनट में आप रैप अप कर लेना कुछ।
जी जी।
है ना? तो आप कंप्लीट कर लीजिएगा अभी, बस कुछ है तो।
हाँ, बस यही मतलब एक तो क्या है, ट्रस्ट रखना चाहिए और कॉन्फिडेंट रखना चाहिए अपने आप में,
हाँ जी।
और अपने आप को समझो, नॉलेज कम है, कहीं पे भी अपने जाते हैं, कहीं भी बात करने का नॉलेज नहीं है अपने को, तो अपनी बात बेफिक्र से रख देने की, भले आप दूसरा आदमी कुछ भी सोचे, तो क्या है, कॉन्फिडेंस से कहीं पे भी बात कर देने की।
ठीक ठीक।
हाँ,
थैंक
तो
यू मनोज जी।
उसका रिस्पॉन्स भी ऐसा ही मिलता है, जो समझदार होता है वो अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स देता है,
हाँ जी।
बाकी लोग बैठ रहते हैं।
ठीक है, थैंक यू मनोज जी, थैंक यू शेयर करने के लिए। मैं I will move on to Arnav, who's been waiting in the wings. Arnav, if you could put your video on.
Yeah.
We have questions for you. We
Okay.
have looked at financial institutions. We have looked at somebody who incubates a lot of entrepreneurs, and we've looked at an entrepreneur. Coming to you, you're part of a big, large philanthropic organization which has a rich history. और everyone has been saying कि इंडिया में आप कुछ भी करें तो it never feels like you're operating on scale. It always feels so minuscule. But I know like Tata Trust also operates on scale, and there are several other philanthropic organizations. So my question to you is, as we move ahead, uh, how do you see philanthropic organizations such as yours actually making inclusive finance a reality on ground? And does it even, and is it even possible, or is it just something we're just intellectually discussing, or do you actually see it becoming a possibility on ground and scaling it up fast? So that's my question to you, Arnav.
Okay. So very pertinent question. And I come from the philanthropic space. So I'll just like to start with a line by Jamshedji Tata, who founded, the trust is essentially a collective of various different family members setting up. So, right 130 years ago, what he said is, to truly lift up the nation, what you need to do is lift up some of the best people in the country and make them of service to the nation. The idea being that entrepreneurship is a term which is now coined, but back then, this realization that you need to select some of these people who have a high potential for growth and then supporting them, nourishing them, giving them the hand holding, it's a very critical. So as you know, we run a lot of large scale programs focusing on livelihood generation, capacity building, all of this. But what is often lacking in this sector in general is that the access to private capital, risk capital, so as to say. The risk-free capital, of course, grant-making organization, philanthropies, they have been there and supporting. But how to bring about this risk capital, which we heard from Adil and other people, what all could be done in this regard. So I'll just like to share, the principle under which we work. We realize that there are a few things which are needed in this space. First is a focus on long-term sustainability. So if any philanthropic organization truly wants to create long-term sustainability, financial inclusion is a must. Only through financial inclusion do the beneficiaries or the community institution or an entrepreneur will be able to stand on their feet in the long run. Second is risk mitigation. If you talk of risk mitigation without insurance as a facility to the communities that we serve, be it an entrepreneur, be it community institutions, no intervention can be risk free to say. So risk mitigation is one thing we found lacking in every area that we saw. So as a unit, we started to see, what is the reason for this, that credit linkage, insurance, also the impact monitoring. The impact monitoring in the program, is often very weak. So what to do about it? These are the challenges we all know and we have seen so many times. So what can we do about it? So we took an approach called DIIP. It's the Development Impact Investment Program, and the idea is to comprehensively develop, men and women in the communities that we serve through Parivartan. Now, that might be a great term to say, but what is it? Does it mean essentially? So, there are various philanthropic capital being put for funding initiatives in the water and sanitation, health, nutrition, livelihood generation, all of this space. What we wanted to bring was a convergence between the philanthropic funding that goes towards a program with other investment, like for example, from financial institutions, banks, other lenders, from risk investors, from government subsidies which come towards these projects, from grants through corporates like CSR funding, and as well as other kinds of donors. So bring about a convergence in all of this funding to have social impact programs which are at scale. So you were talking about scale. That is the key focus area. How do we do that? Now, whatever investment we are making under this, these kind of programs that we are running, the overall objective is there will be a positive, sustainable change in the, communities we serve. All alongside, there will be some financial return for these risk investors. So the beneficiaries who take advantage of this risk capital through the cash flows that they generate out of the project, they will be able to, provide the return that is needed by these risk investors, which in most of our cases are, banks that we see taking a back role in the financial inclusion story in the rural areas. What we see is that if there is a convergence between risk-free and risk capital, we can actually help the beneficiaries, life get impacted in a sustainable way. Impact can be clearly visible if, suppose, one of the entrepreneur goes through the entire journey, capacity building, learning, training, development, finally get access to loans or capital from bank. After one cycle, completes whatever business they had to do, repays the whole amount, and then the bank considers them for a fresh sanction of loan with an enhanced limit. Truly, you have thought about a change and an impact, and now that entrepreneur can go on their journey, and stand on their own feet. And that is what the overall objective is for any organization. That is how, we see impact truly being driven, that they are actually, they don't need us, they don't need anybody else, they are sustaining on their own. That is the whole idea. And then insurance, which I was touching upon, how to mitigate the risks that, insurance as a product itself is a very push product. So how do we bring about, a pull in it, pull within the community? How do we empower these communities themselves to become, part of this insurance value chain, to ensure that, this risk mitigation is there? Because if you do one and don't do the other, then there might be pitfalls. It won't truly be sustainable in the long run. So what is the benefit? I mean, for an organization like, ours, why would we want to do such complex things? We can just do the traditional way of philanthropy and be done, right? So the benefit it gives is that, one, for any philanthropy, integration with these government schemes, DFIs like NABARD, other funds, what it does is it helps us achieve social objectives at scale, which any one organization can't do on their own. Second is, when we are grooming the beneficiary, to get the self-sustaining risk capital, also what we are doing is we are actually doing a better evaluation of our impact. The true end result of our programs are clearly visible when you do this kind of an activity. For lending institutions, like what Adil was saying, their main concern is, see, there is the ground reality is there is a large number of NPAs in any of the sectors that we look at. So that's why they are hesitating, right? Because they want to be sure. So what we should ensure is that this insurance as risk mitigation, financial literacy, which is very crucial in this space, and jam trinity linkages, three things will be very critical to make the bank, look at the segment at that this is an attractive segment and not a risky segment to actually lend to. And we have actually been able to see some, initial successes in this space. So I would like to just share about a program we are running on the handicraft space. So we have a project called Antaran, which aims to rekindle the traditional, heritage crafts, and we are focusing in a heavy way on the Indian handloom sector currently to re-energize the living community. Uh, and we work right at the grassroots levels to promote micro entrepreneurs under this program. So our focus here is mostly on how to educate them on business development, market linkages, design skills to make the product more appealing to the youth and the modern generation. All of that. Created lot of infrastructure, integrated design centers at the grassroots level to entrepreneurs, sound. We did the market linkages, so all of these artisans, Antaran artisans, they have a direct link to the Taj Khazana stores as well as Tanera stores.
Right.
within the group. So, they are able to directly leverage those. Plus, they have an online platform for
Arnav,
directly.
you'll have one more minute. Yeah, sorry to
Sure.
just
I'll, I'll,
interrupt.
clo- I'll quickly close. So
Yeah,
this is all good. This is the, philanthropic side of things. We did this.
got it.
But how did we bring about truly the sustainable impact is that for these entrepreneurs, now that they have reached this stage where they are on a good platform, now they want to enhance business. They have linkages to markets. They want to sell more. They want to produce more, right? They have rooms, everything. How do they achieve that? They need additional capital, for which we were able to leverage, some public sector banks to come and do financial literacy sessions for these people, essentially
Okay.
working with the weavers to understand their, current mechanism on ground. And what we found out that all of them are not able to realize true potential because they are heavily reliant on the local money lenders for their input capital. And, this results in them not being able to reach the, desired business output. So, through affordable loans, so we were able to leverage the PM Mudra loan, which is there for working capital
Yeah.
requirement,
Yeah.
and this was at an affordable rate. No tie-ups with any particular. They are free to choose whichever supplier they want to. No hidden costs. No need for any security. So all of this essentially helped them so that they can actually enhance their income, and we are expecting that they'll be able to double or triple the current business that they're doing in the coming years because of this additional input of capital. So I think this
Sure.
amalgamated approach is what is needed in the current times, and
Sure.
this is what philanthropies can bring to the table.
Sure. Thanks for sharing, Arnav. I think tying into what Adilji and Lalita ma'am have shared, I remember Adil had mentioned this concept of certified credit counselors, like how we have ASHA workers in the rural areas. I don't know how viable is it when we come to the numbers of it, but I think it would be great if we could have, like a certified credit counselor everywhere, so we could help people with the financial planning. That could be a great thing to look at for somebody like you who works on scale. Even before the banks come in, because banks have done the financial literacy, they come in later. Somebody who's just like we have fancy coaches in the cities. So you have financial coaches and health coaches. So if we could have uh, maybe a village level kind of ASHA worker with our finance, I think it would be great. So thanks for sharing. Lalita ma'am has raised her hand. So ma'am, please, after that, we can start taking questions from the audience. And I saw a few hands raised in the middle. Sorry, I could not respond to you, but now we are open for questions. So Lalita ma'am first, please, you raised your hand, ma'am. Uh, okay, I'm not sure if ma'am can hear us. In the meanwhile, if there are, Ashwarya, if there are questions from people, we can take them up. And if there aren't, I have several
Sure,
which
sure. I think, ma'am, you can speak
ma'am's
now.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, ma'am.
The certified credit counselors, I fully agree with you. It's not only credit. At the seeding stage, it has to be, multidimensional.
Sure.
That is where the plus trust approach, it has the notion of an anchor. A person who
Right.
has already been through this changemaker journey then holds the space for a few others around him or her.
Right.
That is how we are trying to multiply our network.
Yes, ma'am. I could see like a direct link between you, Adil, and Arnav's kind of responses. And I think we should hold up Arnav maybe after this conversation as well and take him up on his offer and see if
Sure.
we could scale this together. Arnav, we have a natural partner in Lalita ma'am to kind of see how she's done it very well on like a lab scale and how can it possibly be scaled. Because
Sure,
she's been
definitely.
a certified credit counselor of sorts, what Adil was mentioning. So I'm just happy if this turns out. It will be a great outcome of this session. So
Would love to discuss more.
yeah. Ashwarya, do we have questions from the audience?
yeah. I'll just share the screen. There are few. I'll just.
Sure. Are they addressed to specific panelists
Not
or
really, not really. So
okay? So out of the panelists, whoever feels like answering or responding to the question, please do. Uh, okay, so how do we build financial literacy among inclusive financing? Okay. So the first question is, how do we build financial literacy among uh, my, I'm getting an icon, I can't read the
Yeah, sorry. Minority and undermined groups. So
undermined
this,
groups.
yeah.
Okay. Would somebody from the panel like to take this question on? Arnav, Lalita ma'am, Manoharji, Adil. And I think Arnav pretty much answered this question, if I'm not wrong. His
Yeah.
entire response was like,
Yeah.
So, again, broaden the answer a bit. I think, we primarily work with the minority and underserved groups, women, tribal communities. And what we have seen is that financial literacy stand alone is not that impactful, rather than when you actually have a product or service that they can utilize as a follow-up
fair
of the
enough.
financial literacy. So,
Fair enough.
be it any service or product
Yeah.
that any of the institutions provide. So what our approach has been to go along with the various partners. Partners meaning it could be an insurance, it could be banking, to ensure that whatever literacy is being provided is very targeted and focused for them, and they have a tangible benefit out of that by availing the product subsequently. And that approach has worked more. So the example I was giving for Antaran, yeah, exactly. So all the literacy was focused on first understanding their cash flows and how they avail credit, and then telling them what is the benefit, vis-a-vis
Yeah.
what they are existing, getting. So that I
Got
think
it.
approach has worked mostly.
Okay. Thanks, Arnav. Adilji has also raised his hand. Adilji, you want to respond to the first question? Um, Adilji, can you hear us?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think, yeah. Actually, I was not able to unmute myself.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, these kind of any groups which are, I mean, we call it from people from different backgrounds, like minority groups or some kind of tribal areas and all. So SHG movements had played a very crucial role. I mean, if you see most of these kind of segments, Arno rightly said that only financial literacy will not work. So probably some kind of movement is required, which has already been done in lot. So most of these areas, I mean, where we see that organizations working, so through that SHG movements, a lot have been done on this financial literacy. But once you literate them financially, then probably the kind of awareness when you raise, and then you need to offer those services also. So we have
Sure.
to couple with these some same kind of solutions also. That if you say that, savings is important, then you need to have kind of instrument where the people can save. The moment you say insurance is important, then you can offer some kind of insurance services to them. So that is much required. I want to say.
Okay. Thank you, Adilji. There's a second question which says to Manik, but I think Lalita ma'am or Adilji can answer this question best because they've both been involved in financial institutions. It says, what can a financial institution do to enable the idea of inclusion gets coded into its DNA? So it's one thing to say that we want to be inclusive in our loan dispersal and finance processes, but let's say if you're the CEO of a major financial institution, what do you actually do to make it happen within your organization? Lalita ma'am, I mean, if you could answer that one.
Yeah, there's been a lot of research on how this happens. So at every stage, from the start, like who applies for a job, who applies for a loan, if you study that, which is outside your metrics, you as an institution, you will know a person after you have given a loan, but you will not know the pool of people who are applying for the loan and what are the barriers they face. How much of the barrier is in the person's context and how much of the barrier the institution can address. So, for instance, if you take public sector examples, which I'm familiar with, you have pre-recruitment training for SC/ST candidates at every level, for clerical, for officers. Many of us are familiar with this. So the understanding is that even before recruitment, they may need some orienting to be able to crack the entry barriers. So that kind of an approach, at every level. So once somebody is in your basket of borrowers, how does that? How do you identify those with potential for growth and take them to the next stage? Say if they are below 25,000 loan, how do they become a 1 lakh loan, or how do they become a 1 crore loan? What is that path and how do you work with them? These may involve extra costs for the financial institution. And there are examples, banks like Seva Bank, Mandeshi. These are all institutions which have embedded this in the way they work. And it's not as if it is rocket science and it is unknown. We can take a leaf from their examples. In the public sector bank, I would say Canara Bank and State Bank of India, not because it is my alma mater, they have done very well in terms of aggregates. The way they have been able to include women in their lending portfolios. Of course, much of it may be SHG lending, but even within that, they have done better than other institutions.
Okay.
And they have specific ways in which they have achieved that.
Okay, sure. Thank you for sharing, Lalita ma'am. Ashwarya, there were more questions.
Yeah. So there's another one which is asked. I put it in the chat. So
Okay.
Just share that. Stop
That's
sharing.
great. Can you illustrate what will come under the umbrella of inclusive financing? Can I just take one for the team and just say that I think the idea of inclusive finance is to make sure that everybody has, an equal opportunity to access finance. So there are some sections which can easily access finance, and there are some who find it more difficult. So the idea is to solve for the problems of people who are finding it difficult to access finance, and that's how finance becomes inclusive. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
I'll just ask you a follow-up question. I think everybody just put in. I mean, can you objectify for the audience, or maybe just give exemplify it as in okay, this probably this policy or this avenue that if simplify that way, maybe.
Can you again ask me the question again?
Yeah. So when we can we objectify that and say that okay, this is one avenue, this is one platform, and so on and so forth, depending on the groups that we are from.
So, like, if you were to ask me, I would say like Arnav had mentioned there is the Mudra scheme, which is something to do with collateral financing. So everybody is not typically. Adil has raised his hand, so.
Yeah. So I just want to use a simile. I mean, I just remember once this ATM and everything came out. So Narayan Murthy is one of the drivers said that I like the ATM very much. So he said, I mean, what is this good, exciting thing about ATM that you like very much? He says earlier when you used to go to the bank and I need to withdraw 200 rupees, I feel very, I mean, for 200, I'm going a bank, then how the bank will respond, and then I have to fill a voucher. If I'm not illiterate, then probably that will discriminate me. But the moment ATM comes, I don't feel that kind of hesitation. I go, and whether it is a 200 rupees or a 2000 rupees, bank don't, I mean, the ATM don't discriminate. The ATM doesn't think that who am I, what I am wearing, what kind of things I am entering. So that is probably the kind of inclusive finance we need. So irrespective of who you are, from where you are coming, what you are wearing, whether you are capable, whether you are accessing 200 or 200 crore. So for everybody, it's the same. So I think probably that is the notion when we say that is where the inclusive finance means.
Yeah. Adil just reminds me of one story. Like, I had to do like a research project for a major public sector bank, and I was doing a research with the farmer producer groups. So I heard something similar from the farmers. They were saying, "Yeah, we know we can access credit, but with just our attire, we feel out of place in a bank sometimes, or it just like साफ कपड़ा पहना होता है, सब कुछ होता है, तो हमें अटपटा लगता है, हमें लगता है नहीं कि ये जगह हमारे लिए है, वैसा वाला." So a lot to do with design. It's not just finance, but Adil mentioned the design aspect of it, I think, in some way.
And
Yeah,
I think the earlier question which was raised that how to inbuild all these things in DNA. I mean, if you see last 15 years journey of bank, a lot has been done. If you see the example of Bandhan Bank, see Bandhan Bank was what? I mean, they were only lending to small micro women of 15,000 loan. Now they are a full-fledged bank. So when this bank will operate, they know that somebody is coming for a 15,000 loan. This was my first customer. From there we started our journey. So it has been already built in their DNA. And if I give example about SIDBI, I work with a department which is full-fledged working on how to build, I mean, these kind of nursery of people who can approach to bank, not to SIDBI, any other bank. So my job is not, I mean, I'm not a player in the market, but lakhs people every year. I know that none of them may become a SIDBI client, but most of them will approach any X or YZ bank, and then I will say that yes, these kind of DNA is required in public. And I think, I mean, most of the banks are working on it. It's, I mean, again, I would come back to my first statement that whatever we are doing probably is a much small to the kind of nation we have. So, I mean, probably we are reaching through from our intervention around 10 lakhs people in a year. But 10 lakhs in a country of 1.3 crore, 130 billion, it's nothing. So, I think everybody is playing their part.
Thank you for sharing, Adil. Aishwarya, I think we've crossed our time limit. We are supposed to end at 4:30. We are 3 minutes overboard.
No, that's okay. I think if you want, if there are any other questions, people, I can't see anything else. There's one about digitization, but if you want to take it.
So anyone from the panel who wants to take this question up, which is about your view about digitization and e-tools facilitating the financing space.
So small comment would like to say. I mean now the digitalization is a big buzzword. So every other organization is coming with app and all those digital things. But probably we are also creating a kind of digital divide. That those who are digitally literate will probably have a better access to the things, will have more information and all, and those who are digitally illiterate will be far behind from the race. So I think that digitalization is very important, but parallelly it is also very important that nobody should be left behind. So in the race of digitalization, we should not create that kind of gap where we see that somebody knows much more than a section of population who is not able to access. Because I mean, we are not a country where already the literacy level are about 90%. I mean, in the countries like Europe and other developed countries, this digitalization will have a different notion. But country like India or any South Asian countries, probably we need to work on our nursery and primary, and then we'll say that yes, secondary is working properly. So there probably we need to take care.
Sure. Thanks, Adil. Ashwar, I think we've covered all our questions.
Yeah.
And if there are more coming in, maybe we can route them to the panelists at a later time.
Sure.
In the interest of the larger event that we're part of. So I'd like to thank everyone who was present here today. A special thank you to all the panelists for making this possible. It was wonderful to just have an opportunity to ask you all questions. And I have more follow-up questions, which I will get on with you on like a one-to-one thing. मनोहर जी, आपका हाथ, आप प्लीज बोलिए, आप कुछ कहना चाह रहे हैं? मनोहर जी का
हाँ जी, आप बात कर सकते हैं मनोहर जी। अब
म्यूट नहीं हो रहा था इसीलिए मैंने।
जी।
हाँ जी प्लीज।
अभी जैसे ये समझो बिजनेस का पूरा नया दौर चल रहा है अभी।
हाँ जी।
तो हमने फिर जैसे एज बढ़ती गई तो हमने सोचा बाहर नहीं जा सकेंगे बैग लेके, तो फिर ऐप बिजनेस जैसे चालू हो गया। जैसे एक उड़ान नाम आपने सुना होगा।
हाँ जी।
हाँ, तो फिर हम उस पे बिजनेस करने लगे।
अच्छा।
तो उनके पास ऑलरेडी क्या है 2-3 करोड़ कस्टमर रहते हैं और हमारा वो प्रोडक्ट सब देख के ऑनलाइन बाय करते हैं और बहुत अच्छा मतलब सेट हो जाता है उसमें। उड़ान है, जियो है, वो सब B2B।
हाँ जी।
B2B मतलब पोर्टल है।
हाँ।
जैसे
अच्छा।
फ्लिपकार्ट है वो सिंगल पीस जाता है, लेकिन ये जो मैंने बताया आपको वो सब B2B पोर्टल है, तो बड़े कस्टमर मतलब उसमें बाय कर सकते हैं ये सब।
हाँ जी। तो डिजिटाइजेशन के कुछ फायदे भी हैं,
बहुत
मनोहर जी आ रहे हैं कि उनके लिए तो अच्छा है।
बहुत फायदे, अनबिलीवेबल मतलब काम
हाँ
होता है। एक चेयर और एक टेबल होए और कंप्यूटर होए और स्टॉक होए तो बहुत कुछ जरूर नहीं पड़ती है।
हाँ, वो इतना पसीना बहा के जगह जा करके तो उनको
हाँ।
इसका बेनिफिट ज्यादा दिख रहा है एकदम। तो थैंक यू मनोहर जी ये ऐड करने के लिए। टेक्नोलॉजी के कुछ सुख भी हैं जो हम सब उठा रहे हैं। हम आज सब इकट्ठे भी उसी की वजह से हैं, तो बढ़िया है कुछ चीजें। तो सो या मैं बस सबको थैंक यू बोलना चाह रहा था। थैंक यू ललिता मैम, थैंक यू आदिल जी, थैंक यू अर्नव, थैंक यू मनोहर जी। आप लोग सब आए और समा बांध दिया तो अच्छा लगा। एंड आई होप ये सिर्फ बात ना रह जाए और आप लोग कुछ आपस में और बात करें, क्योंकि आप लोग सभी बहुत बढ़िया से काम कर रहे हैं। तो अगर मेरे को तो लगता है अर्नव, आदिल, ललिता मैम, आप लोग अगर कुछ मिल जाए और मनोहर जी के भी इंसाइट्स ने, तो वो एवेंजर्स वाला एकदम हमारा सुपर हीरो टीम बन जाएगा और प्रोडक्ट्स अच्छे हो जाएंगे। तो बहुत मजा आएगा। तो 10 लाख से शायद 10 करोड़ पे पहुंच जाएंगे आनंद जी। और आपसे ही होप है, आपको तो हम पकड़ सकते हैं और आपके पीछे सवाल पूछ सकते हैं। तो प्लीज ललिता मैम के एक्सपीरियंस का और अर्नव के एंथुजियाज्म का, मनोज जी के इनसाइट का सब कुछ प्लीज फायदा उठाइए।
Sure,
And
sure.
thank you to everyone whoever was present here. And thanks once again to Sathi for bringing all of us together. So